thank you all. Welcome. So this is a project that it's a program that we started a couple of years ago, and it is a collaboration, and Jen and Jody are gonna be here in a minute, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started for the sake of time. I want all of us to introduce ourselves first, and then we'll get right in. I'm Antoinette Aragon, an associate professor here in the School of Education.
I'm Xiaoqing Lin. I also go by Kristen. Some people know me as Kristen, and I'm the first year PhD student, also a research assistant of Dr. Aragon, and I feel really honored to be in this program.
I'm Yasin. I'm a first year student here at CSU. I'm currently majoring in HDFS and a minor in business administration.
Hi, my name is Omar Correa. It's a pleasure to be here. I am a senior and I am doing business administration with concentration in accounting.
I'm Noah Mendez. I am a second year here. I am majoring in English with a concentration in education.
So to get started, before we engage and talk to all of the students from CSU here, I really want to give you an opportunity to just hear some of the voices of the Fort Collins High School students. Unfortunately, I don't think any of them are going to make it today, so I don't know if you saw on the invitation there is a quick clip, YouTube clip, 3 minutes long. If you saw it already, I'm going to let you see it one more time. I love it. We put it together right before the break, and Yoselin was our director of it, and it's incredible. So, it's Camino's Youth Empowerment in Motion, and that's our title today. And here is our
Camino's part of my life because it makes me feel proud of being on Latina and being able to be bilingual and how it helps me like in life.
It shines this light on passage that for many Latinos is kind of like overshadowed by other things, negativity. And due to this program, I've learned that there are many opportunities out there, more than we're limited to.
In Caminos, I learned about how to follow my dreams, how to be more prepared to go to college or university.
So the CSU students hearing their story, it helps us like understand, because if you listen to them, they've been through some pretty like hard points in their life, but they still went through it. I think that just helps us as a class to say even though there's hard things in life, we can still go on.
I think being in this program can help me and like the others that are here because like people from CSU like they're role models and like things that being Latina or Latino being bilingual can like is bigger than most people believe. So.
CSU students help me push myself more and more because I'm not the only one with hard background stories and all that. They also have very harsh, sometimes like sad stories go along with the journey to this, and I relate to them all the time, so it just keeps motivating me more and more to do hard work.
Personally, it's helped me a lot. 'Cause I didn't know a lot of these capitals or how like many things get factored into my college or how I could get to there. And I think this is a great way to start like learning about how to go to college through this.
Caminos helped me understand my culture because they've showed me like how it can shape me and how it's not just stereotypical, we're all different.
In communities, I've learned that things might get tough in the beginning or throughout your journey to your career, wherever you're going for. But as long as you keep working hard, everything's gonna be worth it in the end.
My future career goals are graduating here at Collins and then being able to maybe go to CU and graduate and then becoming a midwife.
Future goals, career goals is to be a criminology, study criminology.
So I like forensic science, one of my favorite things, also history. So I'm gonna get a career in science and history, but I really enjoy it.
Some of my future career goals are graduating high school, going to college and having a good career helps me provide for myself and others, like my family.
Wonderful. So I'm Jody Snow. I'm the family liaison and one of the Spanish literacy teachers at Fort Collins High School.
And I'm Jennifer Roth. I'm one of the assistant principals at Fort Collins High School.
So good evening, buenas tardes. My name is Guadalupe Salazar. I'm the director of our center.
So when we put this program together, it was a collaboration between all four of us and a couple other people, and they're not at the table anymore. But we basically decided we really needed to have something that was going to allow for the students at Fort Collins High School, the Latino students in particular, the Spanish-speaking students, to have an opportunity to really have a pathway program into college, into hopefully coming to CSU. So we have 2 phases in operation right now at Fort Collins High School. And our first phase is the mentorship, and all the students that are here are CSU mentors, and we go every other Thursday, 6 Thursdays in each semester, to the Spanish literacy class. Or there are 4 Spanish literacy classes. So actually Jody teaches one of those classes. And you have about, oh, actually you teach 2.
I teach 2. One level, 2 classes.
Yeah, and so there are a total of about anywhere from 20 to 30 students in a class.
Did you talk about the Spanish literacy?
No.
Do you mind if I?
No,
So,
please jump in.
Fort Collins has what we call Spanish literacy classes. They're specifically designed for students who are bilingual. We're lucky to have Harris Bilingual Elementary, and then there's a dual language track that's at Lesher. And so really this came out of where do those kids go? They don't go into Spanish 2 when they hit high school. And so we really felt like we needed to have a place for those students, and then what that allows us to do is also keep kids in Spanish to support, it's essentially Spanish literacy is like an English language class, in that they're listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and developing their literacy skills so that we truly are creating biliterate students, not simply bilingual, but biliterate students. And so that exists there are 3 levels of that class. And so that really seemed like an obvious place to tap into the Caminos piece. It just seemed like a perfect fit, because the bulk of our bilingual kids were already in those Spanish literacy classes.
So the mentors come in, they tell their stories. The real focus within the curriculum, I've really assisted in creating a curriculum that focuses around community cultural wealth, where we're looking at students' aspirations, their familial capitals. So it's 6 different capitals within their lives. So we're constantly talking about from their each of the CSU students tells from their perspective what the capitals mean in their lives. So there's this reciprocal exchange where the students get a chance to hear their stories, and then they too tell their stories. And that happens throughout the 6 times that we're there in each semester. And in addition, we're also creating projects that we display at the end of each semester. And for the fall semester, we come to CSU, and we have a visit here at CSU for the students from Fort Collins. And so we've got, we'll have about 100 students in room 382 in the Laurie Student Center on December 7th. And they will be telling their stories and talking about the community cultural wealth in their life. And then in addition to that particular end of the culminating semester for the fall, in the spring semester, the students create career pathways, and one class looks at their resumes, another class looks at the history and how they can really see the history as it relates to what careers they want to do. So do y'all want to add anything? No. So really in a center circled college awareness is what we're aiming towards as a purpose, career readiness, cultural and racial identity, and bilingual leadership. And then phase 2, we have a new part that we're utilizing youth participatory action research, where we are now going into Laurel Elementary School and Bolts Middle School, and the high school students are now the mentors with the CSU students too, a few of the CSU students. And again, the whole thing really focuses on social justice action, change, outreach, and also family engagement. Because in the spring semester, we have a family night, and the students get to display their work to their families. So I want to open it up now, though, since we have the CSU students, and I really want you all to hear from them about their experiences. So we can start with whoever wants to start.
I guess I'll start. I've been in communities for a year. Well, this is my first time doing it, and so far from what I've experienced, it does have an impact on students. I was in a similar program in high school, and just listening to their stories and them listening to my story kind of encourages like both sides, you know, to that you can achieve your dreams. And the students they have so much potential in them, and some of them like don't notice that, but I feel like this program is definitely going to help them develop that potential that they have.
So I was actually, I'm a graduate from Fort Collins High School. I spent all 4 years of my high school there. And for me, when I first heard about Caminos, I really did it because I remembered that back in high school, I didn't really see much potential in myself to be in college at all. Like my goals were not what I'm currently doing right now. Like, you know, like I'm graduating in May, and I'm going into graduate school next year, and that is not at all what I would have said that I would be doing if you would have asked me in high school. And it's not because like I didn't want to do it, it was because I just saw no potential in myself. So I decided to do this program in order to help those students that literally are a reflection of what I used to be, to see the potential that they have. As she said, we like share stories like about like our lives, and like I shared about like how I grew up with undocumented parents. In fact, they were undocumented until 2 weeks ago when they got their green cards. Yeah, and so you know, like they just feel disadvantaged, which is not completely false, you know. But I would tell them my story, and I would say, you know, like even though that I did have these certain disadvantages, you know, I was still able to do it. And if I can do it, then you can do it. And so just encouraging them, and just see how this program really helps these students to realize their potential is what's really great about it. Because I did take Spanish literacy, which is a great program in and of itself, because it really did help me with being literate in Spanish. But yeah, so I think that this program is great and that it should be continued.
So Omar, would you also share what you're studying here at CSU? Okay.
Yeah.
And your name, your whole name?
Oh, well, my name is Omar Correa. Sometimes I put my second last name, which is Abundis. But I usually just go by Omar Correa, and I'm studying accounting, and I'm going to do my Master's of Accountancy next year. So.
For me, this is also my first semester doing this. I actually came in like a week late. I've struggled a lot through schooling, partially because of like mental health stuff, but a lot of my issue within high school was this problem that I had where I either disconnected from my culture and went to college, or connected with my culture and stayed where I was. I grew up in Commerce City, which is, my school was like 70-something% Latino students. And the students that did go to college often did disconnect from this culture of being Latinx. in order to continue on and stuff and go to college as what would be considered like a white student. And so I had a lot of issues with that, like wanting to stay close to my culture because I loved it so much. I started learning how to love it towards like the end of my public schooling and wanting to go to college when these things were seen as a disconnect. And so being able to see high school students who I'm not sure how much issue they have with their culture, because when I talk to them and stuff, they're just like, oh, I fall back on family all the time, I fall back on my culture. It's so nice to be able to see that and still see them aspiring to go to college at the same time, instead of seeing that disconnect that I did during my own public schooling. So I think that's a super important part where they're told, this is your culture, but that is not all that you are. These stereotypes are not all that you are, but this is still a very, very important part of you.
I'm not a Latina student, but I think it's meaningful in this program because I also share my identity and where I grew up as an indigenous person in Taiwan, and now we had under 2% of population, and then the dominant population is Chinese descendants. So I feel like even though I don't speak Spanish, and then but I share my struggles and I connect with them in that way, and then I learned so much from these college students, mentors, and also what really impressed me so far is how much we can guide them or tell them that you have a dream, you can pursue that.
So, we have, as I talked about already, a lot of this I talked about, let's see. One thing I'd like to stress is that if the high school students were able to be here, I think they would really be able to talk to what it means to be part of like a kind of a full circle where they get a chance to mentor and actually lesson plan with us so that they're able to see what it takes to be prepared to walk into the schools and really be effective with the age group that we're working with, and looking at what's happening if we're not able to, like right now we're finding that we need to do something a little different with what our first plan was at the elementary level, and so we're able to just kind of take stock in that, sit back, and then say, okay, what are we going to do from here? And I think that's really important for students to see as well.
Yeah, I just actually came from Bolt, so I have 3 mentors from Fort Collins High School who go with me to Bolt's Middle School. And it is such it's just a joyful experience while we're there. And in talking with their assistant principal, she asked today if we could maybe expand the program to include a few more students at Bolt's Middle School, because there were students asking to get into the program because there's been such a positive feedback from the other students, and they're really enjoying the curriculum and the activities and things like that.
I just wanted to add, for me, the experience is going from the 12th grade and for the past 3 years, and up with the 9th graders this year. I mean, of course, I haven't seen a lot of difference in terms of what they want to do and what they want to learn, and the opportunity that we have to empower and to build on their leadership skills has really been just really a wonderful experience, because we have this, we grow up with the stereotype that as Latinx, we're lazy, we don't want to go to school, our kids, our parents don't care. And so what we see from these young people is that really they want to continue on and receive their education. It's just the how. How am I going to do that? How am I going to navigate the university? And who's going to teach me those things if I don't have anyone at home? So just being able to empower them with the resources that we have available, not only at our university, but also in our city. And then who are those individuals that are here in Fort Collins and our university that with that process. I think in building that relationship, we have several of the students that I know that are at Colorado State University today. And so we get to build a relationship, because really sometimes it's, especially, and it's not, I'm not generalizing, not true about Latinx, but for those that are first generation, that have grown up in the north side, that have grown up in poverty, I mean, this was frightening for them. So just having someone that has gone through that process, it just empowers them to say, well, I can do it. And so, and then just little by little, they're building on their self-esteem and a confidence level. It's just been really, for me, it's been really a pride to see, and for them to want to do it, to want to continue on at CSU. And for me, you know, I would love for them to come to CSU, but really just attending a university of their choice.
And I've talked to a few that have said, I have to start at Front Range, and they have a Front Range program at Fort Collins High School for them to just get started on that while they're in high school. And so that's really empowering too, because they know they're gonna start at Front Range, and then they'll say, and I'm gonna go to CSU afterwards. So they have this plan, whereas before, sometimes some of the students that I just connected with a student, and she was supporting her brother at an orchestra concert at Blusher, and he's a lot younger, but she said, oh, I'm so glad I was part of Caminos. It just helped me so much to see what I could do with my life, and I'm gonna be a nurse, and she had everything all laid out, and that was just really, really powerful for her to realize that she recognized some opportunities and she took those, and now she's in her second year at Front Range Community College, and then she's gonna go to CSU. So it's exciting work.
What is do you have data that show, or that shares the numbers or percent of students that actually started college and finished?
We are working
We're working on it. Part of it is that this is our third year.
Okay.
So there were a handful of kids that were seniors, but what we're at now is we have all kids that have participated in Caminos for 3 years, which I think is really probably more impactful data to start to look at, knowing that there are all sorts of other factors too. But yeah, we're at the point of starting to be able to collect some meaningful data around that. I will say, and I don't know if you have it embedded in this PowerPoint or not, Antoinette, that we have collected just kind of very qualitative survey data pre and post every year, and what we're seeing is kids making statements around, going from I want to go to college to now I know what I need to do to go to college, right? Because of course they always hear, well, I want to go to I want to be an NBA basketball player. Right? I mean, so awesome, because what they hear is you can be anything. Yeah, but what are all the steps in between? And so what we're seeing is we are starting to be able to help them fill in those steps in a really meaningful way.
And that's what the Camino is,
Yeah,
right?
the Caminos, right, that's why we call
was
it that.
The point was
Yep.
to get them to
Yep.
where they wanted to be,
Mhm.
and how do you get there?
And to be honest, every time, so I just see these kids that are now third time coming onto CSU campus. That alone is so powerful. I think when we have, grown up in a family or grown up in an environment that is a college-going environment, chances are you've stepped on a college campus before. We have kids that they live in Fort Collins and have not stepped on a college campus. And so even just, last year we had so much fun because we brought them here and we got them in a dorm. I mean, things that we just take for granted, understandings that we take for granted. What's it gonna look like for me to live in a dorm? They, sometimes they haven't experienced that. So I just think every opportunity to get them in on a campus, having conversations is just one more little, footstep on that pathway.
I was gonna ask, how many kids did you get?
Your question's gonna be really
How many kids did you get to be a part of the curriculum making and part of, and also sponsor? I'm just wondering, those students, how many of those students were given that opportunity? And then how many have you searched for to bring that cultural perspective and bringing in the perspective of CSU and that kind of thing. Yep.
So,
The connections.
Caminos has a total of about anywhere from 90 to 100 students at Fort Collins High School. We put together a Saturday retreat to solicit the students to be part of the training and mentorship at the middle school and high school. And we had 4 students who were interested at the high school level to do that. We have a lot more interest.
Right.
Yeah.
It
And-
was,
More
it
interested
was
is
a
the-
scheduling piece.
Yes.
So we only had one time slot for students, one period a day or a week. There was this 5th period on Wednesdays, and a lot of students had class at that, during that period. And so I think we would have had a lot more
We've
if it.
had more flexible.
So we had one student, when we were explaining that this was gonna be this new phase of this program, she's like, I wanna do it, I'm gonna do it, and then it didn't work with her schedule. So we're starting small, we know it will grow, and we'll work out how the scheduling will work so that the students can be more involved, because there's definite interest.
I think there's a lot of power to that, as being a teacher and knowing how much planning I do. I think that students realize, at any level could really benefit from seeing how much you put into the planning process.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think the other thing for your question was that we were very happy that we had all these CSU students attend that Saturday event. They were there very early, they were.
They were there all day.
And they were engaged, I mean, and they were also helping in developing what was needed to go into Bolts, working with the middle school students. But they were, I mean, we were just really, because they were there early in the morning on Saturday morning, and they stayed there till about 2 or 3. So, and then they were just
And
so.
phenomenal.
Yes, they were really empowered and ready to assist in any way that they could.
Do you wanna talk about our Los Camales nights?
Oh, yes, they're great, but they have tacos. Like it's a break from, the typical college student diet. And so, and yeah, like, I mean, like, those like planning sessions, like, are really important. But they also, empower yourself. Like, as a Latino student, like, at CSU, just having these types of opportunities just helps just reinforce my identity. Helps remember, like, why I'm here, why I decided to come, and what my future goals are, and how I'm not going to just forget about my Latino identity to search for another one. Like I know that my Latino identity in and of itself is not a disadvantage, and therefore this program just even helps like reinforce like my own.
If you don't wanna talk about the evening
At
thing,
9
or,
o'clock.
and we meet at 9 o'clock. And we have tacos.
That was great.
Or pizza. And
Pizza, that was great.
Yeah, so one night we met for 2 hours and everybody was like, okay, yeah, well, it'll be great. Everybody was so faded. I'm like, oh, that was too long, I'm so sorry. But it's a really wonderful opportunity for the CSU students to come together like a family, and we meet at El Centro in their huge conference table. So here we have about 15 of the CSU, because that's how many this semester we have 15 of the CSU Mentor Fellows, and they're fellows because they're receiving a stipend to be part of the program. And so we sit around the table and we plan the Saturday retreat, and we've planned what we'll be doing for the next Thursday when the CSUs, or the Fort Collins High School students come to CSU, and we just plan to whatever we're doing at Caminos at the Fort Collins High School as well, so. And we're not meeting every single, like, we probably have met 3 or 4 times, but it's like a family in a sense. Like, we come together and have family hour.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So I have 2 questions, and one is with I know it's phase 2 is pretty new, right? Just started?
Just started
Just
this semester.
Okay, so how are you conceptualizing the YPAR or youth participatory action research aspect in that phase is my first question.
So we explained YPAR to the college students to actually assist the high school students in putting the lessons together, and the end product is going to be presented to the school board. And so, Jody, do you want to explain what they're doing at Bolts?
Bolts this first semester. So the first semester, just like at the high school level, we're focusing on the cultural capital WELS. And each one of those, each one of the capitals, the students have had kind of a hands-on activity. One of the things that we've done for the social capital, for example, to talk about, or to just kind of give a visual representation of their social network, so to speak, is we made these social network trees, and every leaf on the tree represented someone within their social network, whether it was someone, you know, from their community, their neighborhood, their church, the school. It was neat that they all put, you know, the different Caminos fellows, you know, and mentors down on there. And so each capital will have kind of a visual representation of some kind.
And so that leads to my next question, which is a beautiful segue, is I was curious about mentors, how this framework of the community cultural wealth and the capital has influenced you or informed your own experience. If there's any particular one of those 7, or as a framework as a whole, how that's informed your own experience as a scholar, as a student.
Well, in my experience, this is my first time, like, well, not today, but like doing the Caminos program, like learning about the capitals was really new to me. And I did not realize I had all those capitals. I like never thought of those. But I remember for one class, I think I spoke about navigational, like how as a first generation student, I had to find my way throughout like all the college paperwork that I had to do. And so like realizing that I have that capital made me realize, wow, I did that on my own. And sharing that, I feel like very empowered so that other students can see that it is possible, that you can do it. And so definitely like learning about the capitals myself was definitely helpful for me, and sharing and recognizing that I had those and sharing that with other students to empower them was very impactful for me, and I'm sure for the students too.
I'm sorry, no, finish.
Well, I mean, like, I was just gonna add just a little bit, because I already spoke just a little bit about the capitals, but I also did not know about this whole structure back here. But the one that was most impactful to me would be the navigation through institutional organizations, because like I sort of just threw myself into community college. I didn't really know what I was doing. I didn't know what to expect, and you know, like my parents, they're from Mexico. You know, they didn't know either, and plus everything was in English. You know, to top it all off. So you know, like any meetings, anything that had to do with like my secondary education, really was just by myself. You know, I would see like other students like with their parents at orientation, with their parents here, with their parents there, with their parents there, and I was by myself. You know, so whenever we spoke about the navigational part, it just brought back memories of like what I had to do and what these students do not have to go through. Is to go through the same struggles, because I already went through them. So informing them about how to do it takes away that barrier that I had.
I'd like to add something. The students in 2 of the Spanish literacy classes actually select a capital and write an essay in Spanish, which they then translate into English based on their life, so their personal history. And what we do with, what they do with those essays is they present them at the December meeting here which I'd just like to shout out that if anyone would like to come and bring your Kleenexes and just be really moved by some amazing young potential leaders, come on over to, where are we meeting? The
It's
Lori.
352. or
382. 382.
What time?
Next Thursday, starting at
It starts at 9:30 to 11:30.
Yeah.
And you'll get it, people will get an invite too, but just, this is the first shout out.
So a couple of things that we've done with that is actually creating opportunities for students to share those stories in different settings. So first place they share them is here at CSU. We have also had them present their stories to our staff. And to me, I feel like that is so incredibly powerful because one, it highlights these strengths, this capital that oftentimes goes unnoticed for students, or they don't, like Omar, you were saying, I don't even realize I have these capitals, right? But the other piece that we do with our staff is the students actually present them in Spanish, and the staff reads the translated version, which again kind of flips that picture a little bit around, dominant language piece. And then finally, we bring our parents in. We had a beautiful evening in February, we'll do it again, where we invite the parents to hear their students' presentation, because so often, what the heck, I don't know if you have high school kids or not. I have high school children. They don't tell you anything that they're doing, right? And so to be invited in and to hear your children speak about their culture and their experiences in such a tremendously positive way was really moving. So just different opportunities and venues to kind of develop that leadership piece.
Dr. Aragon, can you speak to number 7?
Why we were just talking about it.
Why the term resistance as compared to something like persistence?
So first of all, let me just say that this comes from Tara Yoso, and she is a theorist who comes out of UCLA, and community cultural wealth really goes hand in hand with LatCrit, which focuses on examining the racism that we have in our society, looking at the meritocracy, looking at linguisticism, like what happens with students with their language, and how do they get discriminated against based on speaking Spanish as their first language, or racism, or their ethnicity. What is it about them as it relates to these isms? And so resistance is about the power of the community coming together and resisting the racism from a community perspective, where starting way back when, even in the 30s, when they were resisting and going to the courts to say, I want my child to have equal opportunity for education. And the students learned about those court cases so that they realized, oh, this didn't just happen in the civil rights movement. This actually happened with Latinos starting way back in the 30s. That's amazing, in California and New York, with not only with Mexicans and with Puerto Ricans. And so the students really, one of the stories that one of the high school students talked about was she saw her resistance when she was being discriminated against in her classroom by a teacher, and she was able to talk about how she resisted, who she navigated to talk to, so that she could say, hey, I need assistance with this because this teacher is not believing that we were on a field trip for our leadership potential, and we couldn't even take our test because she wasn't believing us, and that was and it made my friend cry, and so she was able to see what her own power of resistance really is about. And I know Pepe wants to.
Well, that's why it was with resistance, and I'm glad you brought that question up. Because the other thing with resistance, with one of my classes, we had 6 cases that they reviewed. And so that they had to kind of discuss their own, did they resonate with those cases? Like, for example, the Lemon Grove incident that happened back in the 30s in California, Lemon Grove, California. And so they didn't know anything about the Lemon Grove incident. They didn't know about the young woman when she was in the 3rd grade that she wasn't allowed to go to school because she she was a Spanish speaker. So there was 6 different cases. So they become empowered to say, okay, so with resistance, they went from here, they looked at this and said, but what is this about? I said, because this is what we're feeling now. And this is what's going on, not only on our campus, but it's going on in our schools, it's going on in our community, because there's been resistance with this. We grew up being very proud of our families, we grew up very proud in our culture, and we grew up very proud of our language. But yet, how many of us have grown up not to be able to speak our language? So, because they hear stories from their grandparents and their parents that we were hit. I was hit when I was in school to speak. I wasn't allowed to speak Spanish. I wasn't allowed to speak Spanish in recess, where my brothers and sisters did not know how to speak English. I just memorized stuff. I didn't know how to speak English in full sentences, but I memorized things. And then here, so we've always grown up with aspirations. But all of this has been taken away from us. So now they're having to relearn certain things. And you kind of just see how proud they are that they're saying, this is okay then for us to do this? This is okay now to do this? Because we've always had them. The only piece here is this piece right here. As first generation, as not having anyone in their family to be able to say, okay, how can I go to college? Who's gonna pay for college? Who's gonna be there to help me? So.
What is FAFSA?
Yes, FAFSA.
Am I eligible for
Great.
FAFSA?
It's been really empowering to see them this transformation. That even that, I think about the pedagogy of the oppressed with Fraley that talks about this, of that transformation piece, and you see that with these students.
I know we're at 4 o'clock, but are there other questions?
The cost issue.
We are funded by.
Well, I mean, for the students, like the
Oh.
debt, student debt.
Oh, student debt.
Interfacing with career stuff. It's a big
And how is
issue.
that different for others?
Yeah.
We do have those discussions, then we have students that talk about their debt and how it's expensive to attend Colorado State University. That's why several choose to go to Front Range first and then transfer. And then Noah Marwood with the Educational Opportunity Center with Jennifer Allen Smith, that invited him along, to get some scholarships as well. So he was able to receive some of these scholarships to be able to afford Colorado State University. So there's, and again, when the students come and share their stories of how they're financing their education and how not to accept loans that they don't need. Take enough what you need. And also the other thing is Omar's in business. He's in accounting. If he's persistent and he just is out there, he's a go-getter. Omar is. I know him because he works in my office. He is, and how persistent he is. So he's going to be able to earn enough money to pay some of those loans if he doesn't go crazy with them. So if a student in engineering is also persistent and has perseverance, you'll also be able to. But how about those students in sociology? How about the students in social work? How about the students in education? So again, it's educating them, just take enough of what you need. So.
And don't be afraid to do the scholarship piece, right? Yeah, because I think people hesitate to do that, it's so much work, and this and that, but there's money out there.
So I just wanted to add that I'm really thankful for the work that's being done with the collaboration with the School of Education and with Fort Collins High. I mean, we're being asked, can we do this at the other high schools? It would be great if we had this program in all the other high schools.
We'll need a director.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
It's in the works for funding, that's a degree,
Funding
get the
and
funding and then
personnel.
hire some postdocs and have different postdocs operating similarly in
Different,
the other
yeah.
high
Different
schools.
sites.
Yeah.
So I'm really inspired by the entire program. I've gotten a chance to interact with all of you several times now, and hearing the students talk about sort of the awareness of your cultural wealth, and also hearing about the side of the program where students talk back to teachers and help teachers think about sort of the cultural wealth that students bring and how we can legitimize that in a classroom space so that we see more students coming to us saying, I do have this cultural wealth. And so I'm just as a teacher educator, I'm wondering, how do we do this larger? How do we help more teachers think about the cultural wealth that their students are gonna have in those classrooms, and how we can help to help them see how legitimate that cultural wealth is, and that they bring that wealth into everything, all the experiences that they have in life. So I know that's a gigantic question and something sort of my whole career centered around, but I'd love to hear you all talk about
Well, I
that.
think there's a lot of power in, a lot of the coursework around culturally and linguistically diverse students, and I think really focusing on that and making that, embedding that in all of the courses that our teacher candidates are taking, I think that's a good start, and really, not just making it, oh, we're gonna do this for a unit, but threading it through everything that we do in preparing teachers, I think is a start. I think we also need to look at what are the experiences that our teacher candidates are having, and acknowledging, because I hear this as oftentimes, well, Fort Collins isn't that diverse of a community, so where do you want us to, I think expanding what the view of diversity is, and saying, the face of diversity may not be immediately obvious, but that doesn't mean that we can't speak to diversity and have a place where everybody feels welcome, right? Because I think we have a tendency to use as an excuse, truth be told.
Yeah.
So.
We really appreciate your
Yes,
time.
Yeah,
We really appreciate your time, I know.
Yeah,
I
it's
just-
something I've been thinking a lot about, with teachers and the youth that I work with, and how we sort of, I was thinking about number 6 too, like how do we push institutions to think broader about what learning looks like,
Well, and so
what
how-
matters to learning.
So along those lines, how did CSU help you?
They didn't.
Okay.
Truth be told, they really didn't. It was from Range that really helped me get here. If I'm completely honest with y'all, I didn't even do an orientation of CSU. I didn't even know what the campus looked like. I had to figure out where this building was. And it was because the advisors at Front Range helped me to get here. But yeah, CSU didn't really help me out there.
And the other thing I think about navigational when I talk to my students is I think about all of the experience they've had navigating different systems as their parents' interpreters.
Yes.
So they have, I say sometimes, I'm like, so there are a lot of kids who get to college and don't even know how to do their laundry.
Yes,
right? And you, on the other hand, bring all of this wealth with you. You know how to ask the pharmacist about side effects. You know how to, there are so many things that you have, and you don't even think about it because that's part of, who you are and what you grow up doing, and that's expected of you. But that's something that a lot of kids and your peers don't have experience with, so you need to take that and own that and be very proud of that.
There's been a lot of research done on CODAs, child of deaf adult. And so as a hearing child, helping your deaf parents navigate, very, very similar, very similar.
Yeah,
It's not until you're told that this is the wealth that you hold.
Right.
You don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know that we're doing all of these things, and some of us are translating some difficult things.
Yeah, there was this.
So, and I think this is what, but once you tell them that this is a skill that they have, and they start gaining that self-esteem and that confidence.
There was one student, and he was talking about how he was basically his dad's main man, because his dad had an automotive business, and so anybody who came in, he was translating. He had to know all of the parts, so to be able to just unpack that and say, look at all of this leadership you are bringing to the table on an every single day basis, because of all that you are responsible for in that shop. And it was enlightening for him. He had never looked at it that way.
So clearly this program is very empowering for you all as students, and I think with any empowering program or empowering action, there's also a ripple effect that empowers others around you. curious to see how that empowerment might look for the dynamic and interactions you have with your families, considering that conversation we were just having. Do you feel more prepared to empower other members of your family, or is that something that just comes naturally from you all being products of this program? How is that interaction with your family? Has it changed? Are they more independent and stronger because of your involvement in this program? Or not?
Well, so one of the reasons I came out to college is I'm also a first generation. I am the oldest of 4, and something that's always been super important to me is guiding, like, you know, my siblings to like that, you know, path to college or higher education in general. I told them, I'm like, university isn't the only thing. There's trade schools. There's so many options for you. Just, you know, there's a reason our parents came to the United States. And so for me, it's been like, I try to empower them so much and stuff, to the point where my little sister, when she was in like 3rd grade, I told her, she's a little bit older now, so these capitals and stuff are things that I have grown up with, things I didn't have words for, unfortunately, but now that I have words for them, it's so nice to be able to speak to them, like, you know, actually be like, hey, there's words for this. And I know I'm able to continue doing this. My little sister, when she was in 3rd grade, I told her, I was like, hey, Christopher Columbus wasn't that great of a person. She got to the point where she had an argument with her teacher about it because, like, her teacher was teaching it in like teaching him in a positive way, and she's like, that's not what happened. And she got like sent out of the classroom and everything. And so being able to like continue that, to show that, again, that resistance, that to keep them going, and with, again, just having them be glad that they're part of the Latinx culture, but know that that's like not the end all be all. And, you know, all these things put together, being able to talk to them and tell them, like, these are actual structures that we have. These are things that are part of our culture. These are things that are part of us. And that actually has helped my dad as well. He's always been a super kind of like hanging in the background, letting things flow as they go and stuff. So being able to talk to him about these things as well, he's been able to speak up for himself more in a household that kind of like used to quiet us down a lot and stuff. So with some, it's helped empower, and it's empowered myself with other family members who try to push me down. My grandmother, at one point, I was like, I want to study abroad, and she told me, well, if you ever get off your ass, yeah, you can do that. And so being able to like push against that, and then empower those who have helped me and stuff, and yeah, just changing that dynamic a little bit, I guess. Yeah.
Well, in my experience, the program definitely helped me recognize that I do have these capitals, because before that I really never thought about them. And it has definitely empowered me to inspire others. And I'm the oldest in my family, and the first one to go to college. I have 2 little siblings. And sometimes when my family comes here and visits me, and just letting my brothers, you know, go into my dorm and like, you know, go around campus is definitely helpful, because, you know, they're just little kids, they're like 7 and 5. And so, you know, getting to know them, like get them to think about college at an early age has definitely helped them. And it definitely, being in this program, you know, it tells me, oh, you know, I can, you know, inspire others to do the same and to continue, and that they can achieve college. And it definitely, you know, empowers me and empowers me to inspire other people too.
And I know that Omar had to leave, and I think that he looked at me when you asked that question. And again, is that he comes from a very traditional Mexican family. He lives at home. He has also a younger brother, and then he has a cousin who goes to Fort Collins High. So he's always sharing with them what he's doing here. And he's always having to educate the parents too, because they don't understand why he's home so late studying. And when he comes home, and they kind of leave him alone, but they're asking him questions because they're worried about him not getting enough sleep. So, and I tell them, those are the things that you're teaching them of what it takes to be a successful student at Colorado State University. And then he's empowering others in the office. I mean, he's telling the students, I love being back. I mean, because he walks into the school and they all
Well,
say,
we all loved
and they
Omar
all-
too. When they saw him
They
through
saw
the
him.
doors.
So he talks about that, going back to his
Yeah.
school
Yeah.
and how he misses that. And so he's empowering other students within the office as well, talking about his experience of being in Caminos and how several of them should be involved and engaged.
I wish this program was at so many high schools throughout the country, because it has such great potential.
So I absolutely don't want to be the one who ends this conversation, but apparently that'll be my role today. You know, before we go, I would second Dr. Roth's recommendation to go next Thursday, hear the stories. I've had an opportunity to do that, and there's no way that you're not walking out of that room inspired. And also, I just want to give all of our presenters a round of applause and thanks